What happens when an entire football club leans on the genius of one player to keep its glory alive? Probably no one knows this better than Barcelona fans and the impact Lionel Messi had on them. Of course, Lionel Messi's brilliance has shaped Barca's history, and he'll surely remain the greatest legend to wear the Barcelona red and blue for a very long time. But one particular season could be remembered as the Messi season, and not because it was his best. No, Messi has had many better seasons, both individually and collectively, but 2018-19 could go down as an insane one in Messi's career, because this wasn't the Messi of the Xavi and Iniesta era, or the Messi feeding off Thierry Henry and Samuel Eto'o, or even the Messi lighting up the Camp Nou alongside Neymar and prime Luis Suarez. By then, the supporting cast had faded. Suarez was still there, but not quite the same force. This time, it was almost all Messi, and boy, he was out of this world. At the start of the season, Messi promised to bring the Champions League trophy back to the Camp Nou. That promise fueled him to arguably his most influential campaign ever. He scored 51 goals and provided 22 assists in 50 games in all competitions, a jaw-dropping contribution to over 60% of Barca's goals. In La Liga alone, he scored 36 goals and provided 14 assists, figures that almost single-handedly secured another league title, leaving arch rivals Real Madrid 19 points behind. In the Champions League, Messi's heroics took Barcelona to the semi-finals, where he produced a masterclass against Liverpool in the first leg, including that unforgettable free kick from another dimension. But when Messi wasn't scoring or assisting, Barca often faltered. In fact, in the 8 games he didn't play, they failed to win 5 of them. So yes, that season proved one thing: Barcelona wasn't just Messi's club, it was his world. And without him, their house of cards came crashing down in the years that followed. Would the Barca of 2018-19 even be in the top 4 without Messi? Probably not. What's your take? And when talking about Barcelona, the man who was followed in his footsteps as the next big thing is Lamine Yamal. Yes, it's perhaps too early to judge the team's performances in his absence, but the facts speak for themselves. Of the 5 La Liga games in which Yamal didn't start, Barca lost 4 of them. But even when talking about such a young player, it would be a lack of objectivity if we didn't pay tribute to his magic. Yes, Lewandowski is good this season, Rafinha is in form of his life, but Yamal is doing things we never even thought possible at his age. And now he's 17, but the fact is, he was just as influential last year when he was 16. You get what we're saying. As we said in one of our last uploads talking about how he's building a legacy like no other, there is already a famous phrase in football circles known as Yamal dependency. And that exact thing could also be noted in Lewandowski's book, because his 2012-13 was spectacular. Of course, as we said in Messi's part, he's been a game changer everywhere he's gone. He scored 55 goals in his sextuple winning season with Bayern Munich. He's currently doing fabulous things again under Hansi Flick, and is already on course to surpass his last 2 seasons at Barcelona. But if there's one season where his influence really stands out, it's his 2012-13 campaign with Borussia Dortmund. This was Dortmund's golden era under Jurgen Klopp, but let's face it, without Lewandowski leading the line, the team wouldn't have risen as high as they did. Dortmund finished second in the Bundesliga, and while the team as a whole was strong, Lewandowski's 24 league goals accounted for almost 30% of their total. He was their focal point, their finisher, their everything in attack. But it was in the Champions League that Lewandowski cemented his legendary status. Dortmund's run to the final was magical, and Lewandowski was the architect. He scored 10 goals in the competition, including a stunning 4-goal demolition of Real Madrid in the semi-final, a performance for the ages. Without him, Dortmund certainly wouldn't have come close to the iconic Wembley showdown with Bayern, their second ever Champions League final in history. But in terms of influence and impact, no one will come close to Cristiano Ronaldo, especially in the Champions League and especially in his prime. Widely regarded as his best season in a Real Madrid shirt, 2016-17 was spectacular for Cristiano. He delivered when it mattered most, and that noodle hairstyle will forever go down in the history books. He had an infinite aura back then. While his overall tally for the season, 25 La Liga goals, may seem modest by his usual crazy standards, his timing was impeccable. Ronaldo was at his best when it mattered most, scoring the crucial goals that secured Madrid's first league title in 5 years. It's also worth noting that Ronaldo only played 29 of 38 league games in 2016-17, which is one of the main reasons for his underperformance in Spain. And then came the Champions League, Ronaldo's favourite territory. He scored 12 goals in the competition, his 4th best tally of his career. And although he had 3 seasons with more goals in the Champions League, 2016-17 was really this year, with him peaking at the crucial moments. 5 against Bayern Munich, including a hat-trick in the second leg and another hat-trick in the semi-final against Atletico Madrid. Of course, he capped a brilliant campaign with a brace against Juventus in the final, sealing a record 12th European crown and making Los Blancos the first team to retain the Champions League in its modern format. By the way, if you like this video, why don't you subscribe to the channel? Hundreds of people have trusted our quality over the past few weeks, so you won't regret it. Now, let's take the subject to another level and talk about Tottenham. Yes, my apologies to all the footballing greats like Messi, Lewandowski and Cristiano, but there was one man who did everything it took to do the impossible and win a trophy with Spurs, and that man is Harry Kane. He spent 10 seasons there, and many argued about whether he had that big of an impact on the team. There were also many who claimed that Spurs would be even bigger if he left. Well, let's think twice. Tottenham are currently 15th at the time of making this video, 13 points off European spots. So his impact on Spurs is undeniable, and we could pick any season during his time at White Hart Lane and the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, but his best of the best was probably 2017-18. He scored a staggering 41 goals in all competitions, including 30 in the Premier League alone, his best ever league tally in England. Yes, he broke those figures in just the first year in Germany, but the difference between Spurs and Bayern is huge, isn't it? In 2017-18, he became only the second player in the competition's history to score more than 30 goals in a 38-game season, and he finished second in the Golden Boot race behind Mohamed Salah. But Kane's influence was even more evident in the context of Tottenham's squad and the consequences of his heroics. With injuries and inconsistency plaguing key players, it was Kane's relentless finishing and leadership that kept Spurs competitive, scoring nearly 50% of the team's league goals. On top of that, they finished third in the league, qualifying for the Champions League, and it was that qualification that saw Spurs reach their first ever final in the competition the following year. Another club from this part of London that has developed a reputation for being heavily reliant on one player is Arsenal. Bukayo Saka is their talisman, their key player, and that has become clear since he suffered a hamstring injury in December. He picked up the injury in the 5-1 win over Crystal Palace, and at first, Arsenal were looking good as they went on to beat Ipswich and Brentford, but when the big guns came knocking, Arsenal began to struggle massively. Much like Yamal's influence on Barcelona, Saka is hugely important to the Gunners, but no one expected things to get as serious as they did. Arsenal have been knocked out of the FA Cup by Man United after a 3-1 win over Brentford, and are on the verge of being knocked out of the EFL Cup after a 2-0 defeat to Newcastle in the first leg, and on top of that, have failed to beat Brighton and Aston Villa in the Prem. Those poor performances have left them 6 points behind Liverpool, and with a game in hand, the Merseyside outfit are potentially 9 points on the top. All of this just when Saka got seriously injured. And by the way, who says defenders can't be as crucial as goal-scoring superstars? Virgil van Dijk is living proof that a rock-solid centre-back can transform a team. Since arriving at Liverpool in January 2018, Van Dijk has been nothing short of revolutionary. His towering presence, composure and leadership have transformed the Reds from contenders to champions, guiding them to Premier League and Champions League glory in successive seasons. But his importance was never more apparent than in 2020-21, when his absence almost derailed everything. In October 2020, Van Dijk suffered a devastating knee injury in a Merseyside derby against Jordan Pickford that sidelined him for the rest of the season. Without their defensive mainstay, Liverpool fell apart. The backline became a revolving door of makeshift pairings and no stability. The Reds went from being Premier League champions to struggling for a top 4 finish. Yes, they eventually got it after a strong run at the end of the season, but the struggle was real. Another player who captured the hearts of the Liverpool faithful is Luis Suarez. Yes, he eventually lost their respect after celebrating against them in 2019, but 5 years earlier, he was the real deal at Anfield. Of course, most of you would point to his time at Barcelona as the best in his career, but that 2013-14 season was something special, and it was actually the reason that Barca made Liverpool pay more than 80 million for him. To be perfectly honest, Suarez was a one-man wrecking crew for Liverpool that campaign, scoring 31 Premier League goals in just 33 games. His performances didn't just earn him the Golden Boot, but also the PFA Player of the Year and FWA Footballer of the Year awards. His goals accounted for a staggering 40% of Liverpool's league total, and his creativity added another dimension, with 12 assists to his name. The Uruguayan's influence was the driving force behind Liverpool's unexpected title challenge. He terrorised defenders week in, week out with his flair, movement and deadly finishing. And while the team fell agonisingly short of Premier League glory, thanks to that slip from Steven Gerrard, Suarez's brilliance turned a good Brendan Rodgers side into genuine contenders. And before we get to the end point, let me ask you a question. Which of these players has had the most impact on their team during the given period? Or to put it another way, which of these teams would have fallen apart if it weren't for that particular superstar? Let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out one of our latest uploads on 3 other spectacular superstars, the ultimate debate, Suarez versus Benzema versus Lewandowski. And I'll catch you there.